Coming to you from Strings and Things Studio in Ventura, California, this is the Strings Unraveled Book Club. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
So today we're actually talking about a book, not like well, I guess we kind of talked about a book last month, but it was movie/book. So we're talking about Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which was my pick for the next book. It is, I think it came out last year or maybe 2018. I don't remember exactly, but it's a new novel. And I'm going to read just the back of the book because I couldn't find a more detailed synopsis that was like not really super long, but it says, Daisy is a girl coming of age in LA in the late 60s, sneaking into clubs in the Sunset Strip, sleeping with rock stars, and dreaming of singing at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Her voice is getting noticed, and she has the kind of heedless beauty that makes people do crazy things. Also getting noticed is The Six, a band led by the brooding Billy Dunn. On the eve of their first tour, his girlfriend Camilla finds out she's pregnant, and with the pressure of impending fatherhood and fame, Billy goes a little wild on the road. Daisy and Billy cross paths when a producer realizes that the key to supercharged success is to put the two together. What happens next will become the stuff of legend. The making of that legend is chronicled in this riveting novel written as if it were the oral history of one of the biggest bands of the 70s. In Daisy Jones and the Six, Taylor Jenkins Reid brilliantly captures an unforgettable place and time in an utterly distinctive voice. So that's just straight from the back cover of the book.
That's a good description of it.
Yeah.
I chills, like I'm right back into reading the book with those highlights being hit. I love this book. It was a good suggestion, Katie.
I really enjoyed it too. I just finished it yesterday because I was kind of like putting it off because I just wasn't feel like reading anything, but then I sort of got sucked into it, and then like 2 or 3 days ago I realized I had like 4 hours of audiobook left, and I was like, oh, I better like buckle down and finish it. But it was really easy because I was really into it.
I highly recommend the audiobook. I feel like these are really real people that I'm listening to.
So, and you like saying that you just got to the end of it yesterday made me think of, like when you're at the bottom of an ice cream cone and the bottom of the ice cream cone is the best part, or the bottom of a burrito and the bottom of the burrito is the best part. Like you got into like the best, like,
yeah,
the part that's still my heart. Like that's the best part.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I have the actual like novel because I bought it when I saw it at Target one day, and I was reading it, but I really found it more helpful to, so it's written as like an oral history. It's like a behind the scenes of they're interviewing the band. So in the audiobook, all the characters are played by different actors, so you have different voices for everybody. And at first I think there's too many people in the band because I got a little confused as to like who was who sometimes. I bookmarked a place on the book that was like, so-and-so was the drummer and so-and-so was the guitarist because I kept mixing people's names up.
I appreciated that. I think they kind of were sensitive to that in the presentation though, because most of the time people say their names. Like, yes. But it was hard to keep track of like the relationship between the two brothers. Like I forgot that there were brothers in the band.
There were 2 sets of brothers, which I forgot about.
Ooh. I didn't get the sense that there were 2 sets until later, much later in the book.
Yes, that's it. I knew the 2, obviously the Dunn brothers,
Billy and Graham.
I forgot that the bassist and the guitarist were
Pete and Eddie.
Yeah,
those the 2 brothers. Yeah.
Until
Eddie.
And Eddie's, Pete's saying he's okay, cool. This is like this chapter in my life. Bye. Yeah. He's like, well, why does Eddie care?
Yeah. Ooh, they talked about going to their like parents' anniversary party, and I was like, oh yeah, you're right, they're brothers.
That's right. When the other cool chill guy died in Vietnam, they brought the brother in.
Yeah.
What is the name of the drummer again?
I think Warren is the drummer.
Yes. I love him.
Yeah, Warren was great. I loved most of the characters, and you could like Eddie was such a little shit, but like you really like
He wasn't.
You could tell. No, he wasn't wrong. I think he wanted to be a rock star and was in a band that did not sound like what he wanted to sound like, and
he wasn't the lead. Like every time he was going to get a chance to shine, he was reminded he was just support.
Yeah.
Warren and Camilla are my favorites.
Karin is my favorite.
I like Karin a lot. I love everyone.
I know. This book is
I
really
thought
fun
it'd be
to
weird
read.
if I said that Karin was my favorite, because
She's Karin with an E.
Camilla.
Did you know that there's a TV series of
Yeah,
this?
they're making a.
Yeah, it's
in 2000. Yeah, that they're making it. Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. A TV adaptation.
I looked for it because I want this music so bad.
I so wish this was a real album. I wanted to listen to it so badly.
I felt so cheated that I couldn't just like have it on in the background while I was. And then at the end of the audiobook they have the
lyrics.
But who cares? Like it was really about the vocalists. I don't care. Like that's the point. The instrumental people felt
How many of us remember the words anyway?
Yeah, the lyrics aren't as important. Like, I really wish this was a real band that I could listen to.
So
I might have thought that it was a real band to begin with, and I might have looked, and I couldn't understand why Amazon Music didn't have it. And I was like talking to my husband, going, "You're like, that's your era. Have you heard of this band?" He's like, "What?" So don't be me. They don't exist. You won't get to download or stream their music yet.
I had to remind myself several times that I could not go looking for this music and just listen to Honeycomb right? That's what that one's called.
That was their first hit.
Yeah.
And that like the epic album that they're writing, that's most of the book, and then what they choose on. Like it's nowhere. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I hope that it really does get made. I just feel, we're like skeptical of what.
That's true. Well,
I kind of do, and I also don't, because I don't want somebody who's not good to make the thought.
Who I think of. Yeah.
Well, so that's trying to figure out like who would satisfy this itch in my brain.
I was listening to Fleetwood Mac when I listened to it.
Totally, yeah.
I know they're emblematic of the time, and like it probably is
somewhat based
of lots of rock and roll stories from this era.
Yeah.
It didn't satisfy the itch. I feel like the songwriter that Daisy Jones is more equivalent to Jewel. Like I
can hear that.
So I started listening to Jewel's like discography this last week, and there's actually an interview with her. She's like, "Oh, I have like 500 songs in a songbook. I never have to write songs for an album. I always have songs, and I just choose from my songbook," which is what imagine that Daisy Jones' songbook could be someday if she like nurtured it, that she could was doing, but like, yeah. So Jewel feels like the Daisy Jones character to me, even though she's not of that time.
Yeah, I can hear that.
And then there's a band I just heard about, because this is not my era. X, do you know about it, Karin?
It was not my era. I lived for 80s music, so this is pre.
This is like X is kind of like moving from like the Six. It's moving like were playing in small venues in the 70s, and then they got hot in the 80s. And then they disappeared, and now they're back with an album. And I haven't listened to it at all. I just heard a review of it on NPR this week, and I was like, that may be them. Like, that might be the brain hit.
That would be it, yeah.
Or maybe they're like, if the Six never got Daisy Jones.
Yeah, I think Aurora, their album, was supposed to come out in 79, because they broke up in 79. So maybe it came out like in 78.
Yeah. They're working on a second one or something. Or
I think
for the next one.
I think the producer was wanting them to start on their second album, but then they broke up before they did that. So I think they really only had one album, and they're
one hit wonder.
And then
maybe one album wonder.
Said, "No, I'm broken and I can't do it without my big fat."
Yeah,
producer.
He did die.
Like we're right into the spoilers, right?
Yeah, you should read the book.
Can we talk about other favorite characters?
You know, I have a list of questions.
I don't want to go out of order of your questions.
Well, the back of the book just had discussion questions in it, which I always appreciate because I didn't have to hunt for them.
I didn't get that far. I mean, I just stopped once I got the lyrics.
Actually, this time I was honest with myself and I did not buy this book. I only bought the audio book.
I've got both the Kindle and the audio.
Okay, so it says, the first question is, this book is written in an oral history format. Why do you think the author chose to structure the book this way, and how did that approach affect your listening experience?
Well, you have, as I'm about to say this, I'm like, well, that doesn't really justify that. But I had no skepticism. Like, I trusted the source. So I trusted, like, what was being told to me for face value, since it was the retelling.
First person.
But
each person was telling their viewpoint.
And it was a balanced view of, like, everyone got to share their point of view for the most part.
One of my favorite things about the book and the way it's written is that it's really indicative of, like, how memory changes, because they're looking back on it from, like, way back when.
Yes.
And it's so funny when the author's like, Karen's telling this story and then Graham's telling the same story, or like whatever, and then it's like, I bet him $200 and I won, and he's like, I bet her $50 and I won. Like, nobody remembers exactly what happened.
Yeah, no, I love that.
I thought it was funny because they would, like, just right after each other, like, contradict each other, and you could tell, like, the truth was in there somewhere.
The first person would tell the story to their best advantage, and everyone would say, that never happened.
Yeah.
It didn't happen that way.
Well, something that is so common in, like, personal relationships is that you never really understand the other person's point of view. Like, you can consciously try, but this way we got to see, like, how everyone was coming at something. Like,
everybody's point of view.
The gloss of, 2020 vision. Is that saying going to go away? 2020 vision?
Yeah, I hope so.
Hindsight's 2020. Anyway, we got to, like, understand Eddie's rage. We got to understand Billy's complete ignorance of it, and his wish to do right by himself, his art, and everyone by being the way he was. Like, he just really thought he was doing the best thing for everybody.
Yeah.
He's kind of a control freak, though, but a lot of people want to control their art.
So one of his questions says, why do you think Billy had such a strong need to control the group early on when they were just simply the Dunn brothers, and later when they became Daisy Jones and the Six? So why do you think he felt like he needed to control everything so much?
Because it's his nature. I mean,
I think I feel like it's a part of his recovery, because because a lot of times people go into addiction because he was coming out of an addiction, and part of controlling your environment is either giving into the addiction, using the addiction to control your environment. But when he didn't have that, I think the other part was, I'm controlling myself and everything around myself.
But that was happening before he had gone to rehab.
But an addictive personality is an addictive personality.
Yeah, that's true.
He probably always had that need. So I would agree with you, Karin, that it's a symptom of his addictive personality. But when he was a young man, it didn't manifest in a substance abuse. And then, I think that's really keyed in, because his substance addiction manifests when fatherhood is staring him down the barrel, and he can't control the fact that that's coming, and he doesn't know what it's going to be. I think that's a good assessment.
And Daisy says to him specifically, like, you just traded one addiction, like, you're addicted to your family now. Like, that's you traded one for another.
But like, as an addictive personality, like, okay, so I know that's me, so I should channel it into good things. Like, okay, I'm addicted to yarn and fabric. Turn it into something good. Be addicted to your family.
Personality doesn't change. How you use it to control your environment might.
Yeah. Oh, that's That's good.
This question says Daisy, Camilla, Simone, and Karin are each very different embodiments of female strength and creativity. Who are you most drawn to and why? We could talk about all of them too. You don't have to just pick one.
They
Let's start with Daisy.
Daisy, okay. Daisy is like youth on fire, even as a woman looking back on her age, on her life. Like, she is a force of nature.
Yeah.
And something I love about her is like, she says, you know, to the world time and time again, even if it's not going to be good for her, she wants it her way. And like the strength of character to know what you want is always so admirable to me. Like, to have that distinctive vision of what you want and to risk everything, whether or not that's going to be good for you. Like, so often, if she just went with the flow, she could have, you know, had an easy time, an easy success, but she's never willing to like give in.
Take the easy route. Yeah.
Here's a quote from Daisy. Go ahead.
Oh, I just say when she did, she's unhappy. Like, you know, when she was letting her manager take advantage of her, and she just kind of went with that being the like, it turned into a relationship. He just kind of appeared and started being her boyfriend too. That was terrible. It wasn't, you know, she saved herself by getting rid of him and remembering what she wanted.
I like this exchange between Simone and Daisy. Simone's telling her that, Simone says, I was the only one encouraging her to make something of herself with her talent. Everybody else just tried to make something of themselves with what she had.
Yeah.
And Daisy's response was, I had absolutely no interest in being somebody else's muse. I am not a muse. I am the somebody. End of effing story. And her independence to herself, I thought that was a strength. You know, it grew into that as she developed her music.
Yeah. She wasn't going to let herself just be the inspiration for somebody else. Like, she inspired herself enough to want to make her own music. And when she first got her record deal and they wanted her to sing these songs, and she just basically told them, like, I'm not going to do it. But she also is reasonable enough to know when she needs to, you know, go with the flow at some point. Because eventually she decided, like, if I ever want to make my own music, I got to do what these people say and give in a little bit.
Yeah.
What about Camilla? Well,
she's my favorite of the women.
Yeah.
Like, I bookmark Who Wants Perfect. Like, she keeps reiterating that she knew what I think that's probably, I'd say across all four of those women, they actually have that same character aspect, that they know what they want and they'll risk all to get exactly what they want. So Camilla says, I have this life that I want. Like, this is the man I want. This is the lifestyle I want. We have these beautiful children that I always wanted together. So no matter what, it's not going to go away. Like, I'm not going to let it go. So no matter what he does.
She has a much bigger picture view of life. And maybe being a little bit older than say the other women, I feel like she had this bigger picture, and she knew that there's different things that she needed to do to get that bigger picture.
You don't think she's contemporary to Karin and Simone? I think that only Daisy's the youngest.
Yeah, I think she's about the same age as everybody else, I thought.
She just seemed older in maturity, I think.
Yeah.
A very, like, so, but I bookmarked when she says Who Wants Perfect, because I love that so much. Like, that is the truth. Who wants perfect? And we all miss out on so much when we want it to be perfect. And people can only be so much. They can only be so much. And if
you might achieve perfection for a very short amount of time, then it's gone.
There's perfect moments. Like, I'm sure she and Billy had these perfect moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, she says, I wish Billy didn't love anyone else, but do you know what I decided a long time ago? I decided I don't need perfect love, and I don't need a perfect husband, and I don't need perfect kids, and a perfect life. I want mine. I want my love, my husband, my kids, and my life.
That's exactly what I'm talking. I mean, right now I'm going to cry because that scene stole my heart. So like when the daughter switches to breaking the fourth wall and speaking as
you learn she's the author.
Oh wow, yeah, that was. I didn't know I had forgotten there was an author. I got so caught into the characters. I completely forgot there was an author till the end. I'm like, oh yeah.
It made me want to
the story.
It made me want to re-listen to it with that in mind, knowing that Julia is the author and the interviewer this whole time.
And also, like, my cockles, like, you know, like my hackles rose a little bit too when she said, and I didn't realize it until we learned why, but something about her saying, I'm the only other person who can verify this when there are 3 people in the scene. Like, why are you the only other person who can verify this?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
You know it's coming.
Yeah, it was so good.
Oh.
I really want to read this author's other like famous book is 11 Husbands for Eleanor Hugo, I think is what it's called.
I want to read more of her. I did not know what to read next.
That's supposed to be like her best one. Everybody loves that book. It was really super popular. And I really, really enjoyed this author, so I think that would probably be a great thing to listen to.
Eleanor Hugo.
I think that's what it was.
The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
There you go.
I'll try that next.
It was supposed to be, I think it's about like a aging Hollywood starlet kind of thing.
Another Hollywood thingy.
Yeah. So what about Simone?
Simone is pretty great. She's the anchor friend we all need. Or not an anchor, the buoy.
Yeah.
It made me wonder if she was based on Nina Simone, a real African-American singer of that time.
Maybe.
Similar character, similar, from what I know about Nina Simone is very similar.
She was interesting because she was sort of like a side character. She's not one of the bandmates and you don't hear from her very often, but I think Daisy says you need that one person who's never going to steer you wrong. You know, she's like the embodiment of like the perfect female friendship that she needed.
Yeah. Yes.
The one that will tell her the hard truth when she needs to hear it and kind of be tough, but love her also.
And will save her like multiple times. And it broke my heart when she was talking about how you feel like you're sort of just like throwing your friend into the ocean and hoping that they can swim. It's like, I've done all that I can and I've tried my hardest, but I have to let you like learn for yourself that you need help. And I don't know. I really liked her point of view on that. That was hard.
Yes. But she like tracked the globe to you know, make sure she was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. From Europe to Thailand, back to Italy to try and find her.
And Daisy forgets that she's coming and just leaves. Like, you're such a shit, Daisy.
Yeah.
Like, not even a phone call?
Daisy's such an interesting character because you love her, but also, like, man, you're right. She's a little shit. Like, she's a terrible human.
She's so self-absorbed.
But you still like her.
Yeah.
Wild animal that's just coming out of being feral. Like, I still, as a woman, she must be in her 60s reflecting, like, as a woman in her 60s, she still has this feral energy when she talks about her life. I mean, I suppose they were trying to portray, like, this chill, I got my life together eventually, but she still feels like this vibrating feralness. Because what terrible parents. You've been gone for 6 months. Oh, we got a new sofa.
Yeah. I thought maybe that was going to come back and you would get like a different point of view that like maybe she just thought of them as shitty parents when she was young because she's like a teenager and she runs away. But they sucked the whole time.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they embodied a lot of the celebrity parents of that time, I think, of Hollywood. I think, yeah.
Well, I mean, talking about her parents, when we first meet her and hear about what a beautiful child she is, and that you see her in so many artist work because she was so beautiful and all her dad's artist friends wanted to use her as a subject. Like, she was, her beauty and like spirit was being taken from her as a child. Like, she never knew any different than people.
Well,
take
that's
it.
the kind of selfish parents she had. Is she was there to make her parents look good. Every time someone would come around, their friends would come around, they would bring her out to say, "Oh, look what this beautiful thing we created is,"
Yeah. Last about what about Karin? How does she embody female strength and creativity, I suppose is the question.
She is willing to be honest with herself about what she wants, even in the face of someone as sweet as Graham and his great love for her.
Mm-hmm.
She knew that, a married, settled down, have children life was not what she wanted. And she had
she had the strength to resist even such a wonderful person as him, so that she could be true to what she wanted, which is really unusual for that time.
Yes.
I don't think she had to try very hard. She knew from the beginning what she wanted, and I think maybe she was a little unclear with Graham about what they were doing together, because Graham was like 100% in love with her, and she told him from the beginning, like, I'm not in this for, a partner. She doesn't want to get married. She doesn't want to have kids. She was pretty straightforward.
I think he was so in love, he didn't want to hear that. He just wanted to feel the feels, and he figured eventually his love could turn her around, like a lot of people think.
I feel like they really had that straight conversation until her pregnancy. Yeah. Like, I think she might have known.
I think she assumed that he knew.
But because she finds the letter from his mother, and they still haven't had a straight conversation about it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay, that's what this is to him. But
I think,
like because as I was reading that, when she was like, oh no, I'm pregnant, what is this going to be? I think that's when she finally formulates her truth of what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as a reader, I suppose you can take from her actions and her telling what you took all along, that she didn't want that classic lifestyle for a woman.
I liked I bookmarked one place. She said near the end, she says, sometimes I wonder if I was Graham, maybe I would have wanted to have a baby too. If I knew someone else was going to raise it, someone else would let go of their own dreams, someone else would sacrifice and keep everything together when I went and did whatever I wanted and came back on the weekends, then maybe I would want a baby too. Although I don't know, I'm still not sure that I would.
That's exactly what I bookmarked. Because I think that is a really excellent way to express why wouldn't some women just not want children? Like, why not?
She says in the book, I think I just related to her because I also do not want children, and nor am I ever planning on having any of my own. She says something like how every time she says to somebody that she doesn't want kids, it was something about how, like, they always, I can't remember what it was. It was like they were always like disappointed for her or something like that. And it was like she told somebody, I think she told Camilla, I think it's when she was talking to Camilla, and she said that she was the first one that didn't seem like she understood her, that that's fine,
That also, when Camilla Simone and Camilla are the friends you definitely want. Like, Camilla just wanted her friend to be safe and happy, even though she didn't understand what it was to want.
She says to her, like, I wish you wanted kids, because it would be fun if if our kids could hang out together. Like, I wish that was something that you wanted, but I understand that it's not, She's a good friend to her.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Let me get back to my questions. Why do you think Billy and Daisy clash so strongly? What misunderstandings between them are revealed through the, quote, author's investigation? I was a little hesitant when I was reading this because you really liked Camila and you really liked how she was there for Billy. And the whole time, I'm like, please don't make this like a love triangle thing, because I knew it was coming.
Yes.
And I was really worried about how it was all going to go down, because I didn't want Daisy to be like the homewrecker. I didn't want Billy to leave his wife, because you knew how much he loved her.
Yep. It would have been so boring for it to turn out like everyone to fall for their weaknesses, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, Camilla makes it crystalline, I think, in when she's having that private conversation with Daisy. Is not when she's like, it's somewhere around there, if it's not in that conversation, where she's like, they're too much the same. Like, people think these wanting souls want this, you want two of the same together. These like lusting, wanting souls who are always looking for fulfillment. Mm-hmm. When you put the two of them together, you just magnify that pain.
Yeah.
As opposed to balancing or fulfilling it with someone different.
Yeah.
And
I think they were just both way too much alike.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it.
Yeah. And I mean, you could appreciate that Billy's been in the business a while. He has had successes without her.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing her in, though it made his songs better, like, it did take the band in a different direction than they set out for.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, when you have your darling, like your precious darling, something that comes in and threatens it, even if it's a change for good, no one likes that.
But I feel like Daisy brought an element. I mean, she even said, look, all your bands are about your wife. Is this a band about your wife? I mean, all your songs are love songs about this and that. There's more to talk about than just your wife. And I feel like she was the bridge for the band to be able to be more not just backup for Billy, you know.
And she stood up for herself too, because she was brought in as a feature for one song, and then they decided we need her in the band. And it would have been easy for her to be like, you know, these people were working without me for a while and I'm just here to help. But she really took control and was like, you guys need me, and didn't, you know, step down when Billy wanted to be the one in charge, when she wanted to sing the lyrics differently because she knew it was a better song that way and Billy wouldn't let her, or when she wrote that song and had the whole band vote on whether or not they should perform it. Like, it would have been maybe expected for her to come in, that's probably what Billy wanted, you know, to just be there to add vocal harmonies and whatever. But she's like, no, if I'm part of this band, then I'm going to be a part of this band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it interesting that most of the band really welcomed her, but Eddie, who was struggling to find his own place with Billy, felt like she even pushed him farther back, instead of realizing that it's because of her that he had any kind of a voice with Billy, you know.
I didn't feel that Eddie resented Daisy, because remember, he was like really excited to be on stage with just her.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
when,
he was. But I feel like
ruined things with him.
He had a tough time finding his place, his footing, I think. And of course, he just struggled with that personally anyway, you know.
I really wonder if, like, you know, you think about the universe outside the book, like, I wonder if Billy and Daisy call each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Camilla's request of her daughter to give
Billy her phone number
was like, what a generous wife.
Yeah.
Camilla's kind of a saint, I think.
Yeah, she was pretty I I wouldn't say she was a relatable character.
No. She was far more tolerant than I would have been. I would not have been that tolerant. But I didn't have the goals that she had. She had a vision that was, I don't know.
This question says, what role does the reliability of memory play in the novel, which we talked about a little bit, but were there instances in which you believed one person's account of an event more than another's? What does the quote author mean when she states in the beginning, the truth often lies unclaimed in the middle?
Well, that's why I believed everyone at face value.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of trust put in us as the reader to find what the objective truth of what was happening in each interaction, like getting to see each person's point of view. Especially back to the scene where Eddie and Daisy are on the stage, just the two of them. Her band has been absconded with by her terrible manager that she broke up with, and she has no one on stage with her except Eddie. And then Billy comes on, shoos Eddie off, they do their duet, and then the Six come on and do their set. So what did that look like? This amazing, this tense, terrible interaction between the two musicians. And then they play this amazing show, it's supposedly their best show ever. And then Eddie smashes his guitar. What did that look like as the concert goer?
Because Eddie talks about, Billy's like, yeah, we did this, we did that. And Eddie's like, he took my guitar out of my hands. He made me leave the stage. I was standing there like an idiot. And then when he calls us back on for me to come back, my guitar is just sitting off to the side. He didn't hand it back to me or anything. And you're like, yeah, that would piss me off if I was him.
Yeah. And then
you know that Billy didn't think
Billy was 2 seconds about oblivious.
And then Warren is my favorite in that. I almost joined in, but you don't kick a Les Paul, or no? What,
yeah, his drum.
Yeah,
he's like, that looked like fun. I wanted to do that too, but no, I didn't do it.
He's just there for the good show. If Warren is, other than Camilla, which is just all the feels, I love that Warren comes in to be that voice of whatever, man, it's rock and roll. He's such a quintessential drummer. He's like, this is my job. I see this as a paid gig.
Yeah.
And wow, that's fun. Let's knock the stage down.
Yeah, I like to.
The other thing that struck me, this is not on point of the question, but the fact that this is such a tiny flash in these people's lives. It's 3, 4, maybe 5 years for the Six.
Yeah, and it's it's not that long.
And then Pete, who's okay, so now I'm gonna go, I don't know, what does he do? Go do appliance sales?
Yeah,
something like that.
This was fun. Now I'm back to my regular life.
And one of my favorite bands growing up was the Goo Goo Dolls, and still is. They're just not quite, they'll never be what they were. And Johnny Resnick once was on probably a Behind the Music interview, and he says, well, I mean, what's next for the Goo Goo Dolls? I don't know. Who wants to be a Goo Goo Doll when they're 40? Probably in his late 50s. I should look that up. And he's still a Goo Goo Doll. That's the thing that he's doing forever. So that contrast of musicians who are forever performing, and the guys who are this is just a part of my thing. And now I'm going to go have a normal sit down life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Warren marries the girl from SNL and sells his houseboat and buys a real house with her. And then what's his name? Pete. He owns his own artificial turf installation company now, and he lives in Arizona. You're like, good for Pete. And he's like, looking back, I have nothing but good things to say about my time in the band. And you're like, okay, Pete.
So I love that. And so the finding the truth in people's first point of view memory retellings are it was a very dynamic way to view a scene.
Yeah, you felt like you could like imagine it like a movie, you know, like you could see everybody's points of view. It was, yeah, I really liked it. It was like when you read a novel and you're only getting like first person perspective, but this was such an interesting way to tell a story of a big group of people and feel like you understood exactly where everybody was coming from.
Yeah.
I really liked that.
It was a very dynamic way to tell the story.
Yep. Okay, let me see if I got one more we can wrap up on here. Oh, so it says, were you surprised to discover who the author was, and how did you react to learning the author's reason for writing the book?
Oh.
Which I think was that her mom died, and you're like, oh my God.
I could cry like in a minute. You bring it up and I will cry. Like
I got very emotional.
Yeah, so beautiful.
Yeah, I really didn't expect myself to cry when I was reading it, and then by the end I was like sitting here like, oh my God, I think I'm gonna cry. When he's talking to her at the end and it switches from him talking to like an author to talking to his daughter, and he's like calling her like sweetheart and honey, and you're like, oh Billy, this is so cute.
Yeah, because I mean Camilla and Julia are the glue, you know.
Yeah.
And we all have those people in our lives that were like the glue.
Yeah.
To be the people left behind. And that was just such a artfully done. So artfully done.
Yeah. I loved when he said, I will say I'm thankful for you for asking these questions and giving me something to do. And you're like, that's such a dad and like thing to say.
Like lots of, I wonder how many famous kids of famous people are like, well, that's just my dad. That's just my mom.
Yeah.
You know? Especially people whose like glory days have passed. And then you can make it even more like personal. Like we never really have a sense of our parents when they were 20, you know, or in their 20s and coming of age themselves still, even if we were alive when they're doing that, you know. So
it's hard to imagine your parents as anything other than your parents.
Yeah. So to have this like raw storytelling of a rock and roll lifestyle and realize that this daughter is getting a real view of her parents' experience. Authentic, an authentic view.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I picked this book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I just sort of picked it because I was like, that sounds like something I might like. And when I did, I didn't realize the way it was written, like the oral history format. And when I started, I was like, oh, I didn't expect this, because I don't think I was in like the right mindset, because I was looking for like, you know, more like a novel. But the more I think about it, the more I thoroughly enjoyed it and want to re-listen to it.
I was sick from the minute because I didn't know what to expect at all, and I just happened to turn it on with my eldest in the car, and I don't remember where we were driving from, but we ended up being in the car for about a half an hour together, and I cruelly, you know, kicked him out and finished listening to myself later. But we were both hooked from the first, like the outset. Like who's Daisy Jones?
Yeah, the first chapter or two, I wasn't hooked yet, because the style of it, trying to get my footing as who was kind of off-putting. But I stuck with it because it's what we chose. And then I was hooked.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked it from the start, and then it only got better.
Yeah.
There was some part in the middle that was a little tedious, but I can't remember what it was. Maybe you know what? I guess I wasn't that interested in hearing about the six.
Yeah.
Until Karen's voice perked up.
Yeah.
And
also Judy Greer is the voice of Karin, and I love her, but I just started following her on Instagram, and her Instagram like handle at the top description, the first thing she says about herself is she's a knitter and sometimes an author.
Really?
Or sometimes an actress. And I was like,
Ooh, I'm
okay.
gonna look for her.
What? I did not know that
yeah.
about her.
I'm
didn't
looking
either. For her.
And
my
really
favorite designer, Jessie May,
Uh-huh.
posted in her story that she was that Judy Greer had cast on one of her patterns, and I was like, what? This is while I was listening to this book, and I looked, so Judy Greer, it says, knitter, psychic, vegan, collector of jars, brass animals, and alcoholic friends, part-time actor, producer, and director, with 0 Emmy or Oscar noms.
Is she Miss Judy Greer or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Blue Star.
Yeah. So apparently she's a knitter.
Oh wow! Oh, I like her.
Well, I could take my book suggestions.
Director with 0 Emmy or Oscar noms.
Lots of good book suggestions.
Yeah. Well, I think it's Anne's turn to pick our next book. So.
Okay. So I am unveiling my jar. I will describe it for the listeners.
That's a fun jar.
Like cookie jar kind of thing with a little latch, and it says, "Today will be magical." And the unicorn's wearing glasses that are similar to mine.
And it has a nose.
That's hilarious.
I mean, it doesn't stick out that far, but it does have
Just a little bit. Enough for texture.
I mean, most of a horse's face is a nose, so.
The majority.
I'm giving it a shake.
What are we gonna get?
I'm excited about everything I put in there, so let's see.
Good.
All right. Okay. This is A Mercy by Toni Morrison.
Ooh, I have not read anything from her, and I wanted to.
Like ever?
Ever. And I wanted to. I just
The Bluest Eye.
didn't know where to start with.
Well, in school we started with Sula, and then I read The Bluest Eye on my own, which is often a banned book. And
I've never read anything from her.
Oh, sweeties.
So it's called A Mercy.
Okay, this was, the audiobook was released in 2008. She passed away this last year. I have been intending to immerse myself in her books because she's one of those authors who, like, I love listening to interviews with her talking about what it was like for her to emerge as an author. Like, just the words just pour out of her, and her storytelling is so compelling. So I don't know a lot about this book, but I put it in my choices because I had intended to read more Toni Morrison and reread what I have read. And when we were boarding the plane in LAX to go to Portland this last December, it was sitting on a trash can, like, I think as a, hey, pass it forward book. So I grabbed it.
Could you imagine picking up a book off of a trash can in an airport in 2020?
Well, wow. I have
you might have brought home.
I acquired it. It is a 6-hour and 26-minute audiobook, so it'll just be a nice little snack. In 1680s, the slave trade was still in its infancy in the Americas. Virulent religious and class divisions, prejudice and oppression were rife, providing the fertile soil in which slavery and race hatred were planted and took root. Jacob is an Anglo-Dutch trader and adventurer with a small holding in the harsh north. Despite his distaste for dealing in flesh, he takes a small slave girl in part payment for a bad debt from a plantation owner in Catholic Maryland. This is Florence, with the hands of a slave and the feet of a Portuguese lady. Florence looks for love, first from Lena, an older servant woman at her new master's house, but later from a handsome blacksmith, an African never enslaved. There are other voices. Lena, whose tribe was decimated by smallpox, their mistress Rebecca, herself a victim of religious intolerance back in England, Sorrow, a strange girl who spent her early years at sea, and finally the devastating voice of Florence's mother. Oh no. These are all men and women inventing themselves in the wilderness. So that
sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's a short one.
Yeah, cool. I'm into that.
Not too epic usually. I mean, they tell big stories.
It's not the Grapes of Wrath.
No. Oh, just as, if not more, emotionally wrought.
Oh, I'm sure.
So that is my choice. A Mercy by Toni Morrison.
Cool.
I know that you can get it as a paperback.
I'm going on Amazon right now to order one.
And then it's on Audible, 6 hours and 26 minutes.
I just got just as we're talking, I just downloaded the Kindle and the Audible.
Nice.
Well, all right. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you didn't, I don't know why, if you got this far and you haven't read the book, I would highly recommend reading Daisy Jones. But hopefully we didn't spoil too much for you, but highly recommended.
Well, we talk about the characters. We don't talk about what they do, so.
Oh, I fear spoilers.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we will see you in a month for our next book.
All righty.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.